A very good afternoon to everyone. Firstly, thank you so much for joining in on Friday afternoon for this session on ways to use SEO for your export import business. We are very excited for this session. We all know how SEO is always a hot topic for all the businesses across. We have Mr. Abhilash here, who's a digital marketer at Covoport. He'll be taking the session. We'll wait for other people also to join in, but till the time, we'll start the session and let's see how it goes forward. Abhilash, over to you.
Good afternoon, good evening to all of you, and thank you for taking out your time to listen to me and share each other's knowledge and understand what exactly this term SEO is and how it can actually help a lot of exporters and importers uh, globally. Before I begin, I want to set the expectations correct. What kind of expectations, as in what will you learn after this webinar ends, and when you go home, what are the things that you should expect that you can do and what not to do? Number one is I'm not going to make you an SEO expert here. What I'm going to equip you is to understand the basics of SEO, so that let's say in future you want to build up a website, or let's say you have a website and you want an SEO specialist to come in, and when he starts talking to you, when he tells you those, throws you those some SEO jargons, you should know what that person is doing. Because trust me, if you don't have the knowledge, the person with whom you're dealing with, he can tell you anything X, Y, Z. You will just sit in front of him. He might do a job, maybe good, bad. You have no idea to analyze. All you need to do, all you will do is you'll spend your money, which is a lost cause. So at the end of the day, you will understand SEO and how you can deal with an SEO specialist, so that when he talks to you, you know what he's doing. You can judge his work and ultimately help your company grow. Given said that, to begin with, I'm seeing there are quite a number of people who have joined us. Can I just get a gauge or understand what you understand by SEO? So what I request you all is, before that, I just want to check with the host if my voice is clear and if you're audible, if I'm audible or not. I would request all of you just to write yes in case if I'm audible and if my voice is clear. Just drop in a yes in the chat box, please. Great, great. I think I'm getting a lot of yeses, so good to go. So because a lot of people have joined, and I want to understand what kind of knowledge you have about SEO. Just in one line, I don't want a paragraph or a lot of things. Just in one line, just drop in the chat box. What do you understand by SEO? Just drop in whatever you know. It can be right, wrong. I'll appreciate it that if you engage with us. Please just write. There's a chat box. Just write in whatever you know about SEO. Just one liner, two liner. Explain it. So that this gives me an idea at what level we are and what to do. Okay, it writes content. Tanmay says it's writing content in a way which makes it list on Google. It's a way to push digital identity on Google search, Google search engine. It's online marketing, improving the quality of the content in the website to generate traffic. Search engine optimization. I was SEO and PR at a IT firm, but now running export firm. All right, Nitesh would be probably knowing a lot about SEO than I might be, I'm sure. To show up higher while being searched, SEO helps to analyze the website in different ways. Yeah, one of the ways of online marketing is to show top. All right. As in some other ways, you're on the right track, not completely. But I think I'm assuming that by the end of this webinar, you'll at least understand what is SEO and some tips, tricks, and techniques of how to go about it. In general, when I talk about SEO, like Tushar Bhai Sutaria, when he mentioned search engine optimization, the name itself says that when you optimize your content, or when you optimize the content of a website, so that for a search engine. What is a search engine? A search engine is something like Google, wherein you go in to ask your questions, and because Google has a lot of answers in terms of websites, etc., blogs, articles, etc., to show it up to you. So we basically optimize our content of the website to ensure that we're able to give the right answer to a person who is searching for his or her problem on a search engine. So we optimize our websites for the search engine. That's in general. Let me share up my PPT and good to go. I'm going to share my screen. In case it's not visible, do let me know. Is it visible?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay.
You can be switching.
Yeah, sure. I'll be switching on from my presentation to showing you some examples, etc., etc. And I'm going to not go very deep into topics. I'm going to touch upon the base so that you understand ultimately, because I don't want you to get afraid of this content and what exactly it is. And I'm going to try to keep it as interactive as we can. I think before let's begin, I think why don't we do a small quiz? Let me switch it off the screen. Manmeet, can you drop in one of the link quizzes, please, if it's possible?
I put the question on the chat button.
All right. Let me will repeat the question for you for help of others. So, what is the best URL structure? One of the examples is www.cogopod.com/products/rate discovery. We can, as in, you can reply as 1, 2, or 3. Second, the option is www.cogopod.com/xus11202 rate. Third is cogopod.com/rate/products. All right, we have got two answers. All right. I think we've got a good chunk of answers and people are coming up. I think the correct answer is the first URL structure, which is www.cogopod.com/products/rate discovery. Why it is? Because just to give up, so this is how we go about in hierarchy from broad to small to small. One of these examples could be animals, carnivorous animals, lion. If you understand, as an animals is a very broad. Under animals, you can have carnivores, herbivores, these categories, which are like vegetarian, non-vegetarian categories. And then under non-vegetarian categories, we have lion. So we go from broader category to small, which is a very lean and clean structure. Which is in general, it's a common sense, and we need to have this clean structure, which even Google follows. All right, let me go back to my PPT and share my screen. All right. So when we talked about SEO, and I said that everything that we do to optimize is basically making the right changes to anything. That is what we call optimize. So when we say optimize, so we optimize a website to bring the right changes to a website. But why I'm talking about Google? Because I think when you look at search histories and search data, we know that I think almost 70 to 80%, even more, that could be correct, that 80 to 90% of the searches happens on Google. So therefore, every business wants to be on the top of the Google whenever somebody is searching for a keyword or for some terms which is relevant for his business. So therefore, Google becomes very important, because if you do this job for Google, then you know that you have 80 to 90% of the market share. Everybody else just kind of follows what Google is doing. So if you hit it right on Google, you're hit it right on everywhere else. It's a very generic statement, but it lies true to some extent. So what Google wants, that is very important to understand. First thing what it wants is, it wants you to get the most appropriate answer that you're looking for. So what do you mean by that? Whenever you go to Google, and imagine, as me personally, I think I've been using Google when I was in 4th or 5th standard. I remember that time I heard this term called, because I used to use Yahoo, but then one of my cousins told me you should obviously try Google, and I was trying searching Google, and I realized that at that time Google was giving me better and more relevant answer compared to Yahoo whenever I made a search. And even that still holds true. What Google wants is, Google wants to give you the right answer, whatever you're looking for. And second, it wants to give you the quickest possible way to answer. As in, if you ask me a question, for example, where can I buy, or let's say you're looking for a smartphone, it should give you immediately. You basically want the page to load like as soon as possible. Like as soon as you type, you press enter, within a second or two, you want that result in front of your face. That's even what Google intends to do. fastest way, and the accurate answer. So in short, fast, accurate, and truthful answers. So this is always and always the motive of Google. Now why am I talking about this? Is a lot of people, when they talk about SEO, they talk about that we should do everything for Google, which is very wrong. When you're looking at SEO, always keep in mind, even if you do for Google, what does Google want? Google want that you, as a consumer, or whoever the user is, whoever is the searcher, he should get the accurate answer and the most appropriate answer in the fastest manner. So when somebody says that we will be optimizing for Google, you need to always keep in mind your consumer or your customer. The customer, it holds true. So think about what he searches for, what he's trying to find out, because even when what he's trying to find out, Google is also trying to help that particular person. And by optimizing a website, in a way, you're helping Google help your customer. That's the link. So whenever somebody says we'll do everything for Google and everything else, just ensure that customer is always in the top of the head. It should be the broad bracket or the filter that you should have whenever you're trying to optimize anything, whenever trying to change anything for your website. How does Google do it? Not going to go in very deep. I'm going to give you two basic information. One, so what happens is Google has something called bot. A bot is like an automated system, because now Google, just look at this web area, as in the World Wide Web. I'm sure every day millions and millions of websites are being created. Some are getting closed, but look at the amount of websites that are being created. So, and Google wants everything to be there in their reach. So what it does is it has a system, something called bot, which goes and scrapes this website. What it does is it goes to the website, it tries to read, understand what are the content, which is basically the text of the website, what is mentioned, what is not, and then it tries to analyze what kind of website it is. For example, let's say if you go to a website wherein he sees it says red, let's say red tennis shoe, and there's a picture which is of Maria Sharapova, tennis player, and then there's a red shoe, and the all text, something around that, and the whole content is around tennis and shoes, and it tells you about how if you wear this shoe, how is the performance increasing. Then Google will identify and understand that, okay, this page is something about red tennis shoe. That's how it tries to categorize it. And then what is indexing? Because once he has identified this information, he has analyzed your web page, and he just basically stores it so that when a user like you or me goes and searches for red tennis shoe, then this page might pop up based on the ranking. Let's say this content is the most apt content for what you're looking for. It will obviously come up on the top. So that's how Google does the work. Now, the question always that comes up, and when even I interact with a lot of exporters and importers, whenever I give them advice that you should definitely work on Google and getting your online presence ready, because that's the foremost thing that is required today. And so this is what is the question that comes up already, is in how do they make Google fall in love with the website? First and foremost thing which is very important. When I say be accessible, is a lot of websites that I've seen for my exam, even from the customers that we meet, is they've created a website, but that is not at all mobile friendly. We need to be, as in, I personally run a lot of ads, as in most of you, or I'm assuming you would have seen let's say a Facebook ad wherein you have signed up and you've come to attend this webinar. I run a lot of Google AdWords, and what we realize is at this point of time, 65% of our users, whoever interact with the website, are interacting from a mobile. Now imagine my website, which is cogoport.com, is not accessible on the mobile, or he cannot read the content, or let's say the picture is not visible. It gives a very bad impression. And because it gives a bad impression, he will drop off and he will never come to my website or sign up for my services or try Cogoport at all. This becomes a very big problem and challenge. So always ensure that your website is mobile friendly. Nowadays, I think currently, if you have to build a website, I would say think of mobile first. Always think, how will this website look at in your mobile or a smartphone? Then you think about how will that look in your desktop, because the mobile experience is very, very important, because the percentage is clear. I'm sure all of you are right now, we are on mobiles, on our smartphones, and we search it. So think about it. Even your international customer could be in Europe, UK, Singapore, Indonesia, wherever it is. I'm almost 100% sure that he would be searching about his product, or which is your product or services online from his smartphone comparatively more than your desktop. So always think about that. Focus on user experience. So when I talk about user experience, let me show you our website itself. I should have opened it up. Yeah. Now look at CocoaPost. Why don't I do one thing? Can somebody? I'm sure a lot of you people would be having some websites. Just drop in the chat about your website URL. Let me go through it and just quickly see if it's neat, if it's ready to, if it's user friendly to use. All right. I'm just gonna go samattrader.com. All right. So now, when I say, let's say, photos of dehydrated food ingredients or food ingredients spices from India. Now, as this website looks neat and clean, well organized, the homepage, and if you look at this, our products. All right, let me look at this. Dehydrated onions, garlic. All right. What I would recommend Samat Traders is under our products you can have actually two web pages that specifically talks about dehydrated onion red and white, and another web page saying dehydrated garlic and red. These two, and then to have, so when I go to this product, maybe a drop down menu comes out, something like this. I go to this and there's a drop down menu, and this is I wanted to show you about how did we organize the CocoaPort. If you look at this, we have two sides of it. Our products, which are very tech products, all of them are involved here. And then we have our services well categorized. Then we have under learn, we have blogs, etc., webinars, etc. So this is called well organized structure. So whenever you think of a website, you need to always keep in mind that a user, whenever, let's say somebody comes to my site and he wants to know more about container tracking. Now, what he does is, I don't want him to go to one page. Let's say he goes to this page, and then he goes down. He finds somewhere else. Let's say there is something here, and then he clicks here. There are 2-3 clicks. Then he goes to container tracking. So he still does not find out, and then maybe he comes down. He searches for, let's say, here. So it takes him 2-3 steps to find out. What happens is, because I was the one who kept on searching for it, so I found out. Usually what happens is, after 3 to 4 clicks, as in usually after 3 to 4 web page visits, they will drop off. They will forget. They'll say, oh, I'm not getting my answer here. I cannot find what I'm looking for, so I'll go off. That's the reason what we have done is, if you go to products, you can see clearly a container tracking. All the data that's required for him to make a decision is already available here, and he can do that. So similarly, you need to categorize your products, your services. If you have some blogs or articles, you should be well categorized. About a company details, you should to make it well categorized. Even they have done a good job about here. As in, if I would just recommend just a quick look, I'm yet to go into deep, but I would recommend that under our products, you can have two, because I'm seeing you have two broad category of products. So let's say if I move my cursor here, there should be a drop-down menu, one saying dehydrated onions, and second saying dehydrated garlic. And you can add more information, pricing, or contact us information, etc., etc. You can look into the structure, but this is what you can do it. Now, now let's look at when I say content. I'm sorry. I need to keep it like this. The next important thing is, to make your website fall in love, is content. What do you mean by content? It could be text, it could be videos, it could be audio. I think these days we have a lot of podcasts that's been running, and a lot of people are listening to audios. And even in next 10 years, Google is investing a lot in audio, because if you know, in your phones, like Apple, most of you, if you're Apple user, you will have Siri. If you're a Google user, you have OK Google. So what will happen is, gradually, and maybe in a year or 2 or 3 or 5 years, you will see most of the people will, instead of typing, we would just like to say, hey Google, tell me where freight rates from, let's say, Mundra to Jebel Ali, and then Google does the job for you. Like, for example, instead of me typing, telling, scrolling, voice will take over. So similarly, in content, you can start thinking about blogs, articles in text format. You can look at pictures, you can look at videos, audios, etc., etc. And why is content is king? When you are going to Google, you're looking for content to which will help you solve your answers. Even Google is looking for content. On the other side, he's going through various websites to look for content which will be apt for which can solve a user's problem. So content is like the key. And like for example, let's look at this website, this Summer Traders itself. What is missing here is a blog. As in, can they write more about what they're dealing with, about dieted onions? Maybe they can talk about what are the benefits of this product, what kind of people eat it, how do you eat it. I think it could be various topics, but you need to start writing more content about it. And why is it important? And I have an example between, so I'll take it up later. I'll tell you why is that important and how will that help you improve your ranking. Next is transparency. When I say transparency, I've seen a lot of websites wherein they give you fake information. Never ever give them fake information. Never ever say something which which you cannot do. No false information, because Google understands. How does it understand? It runs a lot of algorithms, because come on, he's into this industry for like almost 10, 20 years, and he understands what our people have done. They have realized this, and don't ever try to con them. Give the user the most useful information and keep it clean and transparent. That's very important. As I said, I think which is second and almost the similar as transparency is being authentic and accurate. Is try to keep a content very simple. Don't add very heavy jargon words. The best advice that somebody gave it to me is, and I wanted to tell you all, is if a fourth standard kid, a kid who is reading in fourth class, can understand what you have written, that's the best content you can give to Google, and that's the best content that you can give to your users. So always keep in your mind, whenever you write any piece of text, it should be readable by a fourth standard kid. And that's the best advice that I've got, and it has worked a lot for us. As in, this is pretty fine. And what I have also listened to from a lot of players is they have, like, somebody, when I asked for SEO, they said that keywords playing. So a lot of people have asked me what is keyword, and even I want to know what is your understanding of keywords. So can we do a small quiz and just drop in your chats? Just tell me, what do you think? What is keyword? Please tell me whatever you understand about keyword. Just drop into your chat box. True. Anybody else? Whatever you think about keyword. Okay. Anybody else? Searchable words. Yeah. True. All right. Is my screen visible now? Did I close the? I'm not sure. Yeah. The screen is visible, right?
Yeah, now it's visible.
Okay, great. All right. So I found this definition about keyword, which is a keyword or a focus keyword is something, it's a word that describes the content of a page. It's a search term, as in somebody said that it's like a search term. Whenever you go to Google and you start searching for anything, that becomes like a keyword. And now let's look at why is it important and how you should think about it, and what all can you do about it. Now there's one tool which a lot of people use. It is something called Keyword Planner. Let me just quickly show it to you so that you get an idea what Keyword Planner is. All right, I'm going to use one of my ad accounts to take it up to show you one of the Keyword Planner. So there's a tool for Google, from Google itself, and they call it Keyword Planner, which is, I usually use it for running our ads on Google Ads, etc., etc. But this tool will give you a lot of ideas, and there are a lot other keyword planning tools in the market which you can look at. There's a company called SEM Rush. For SEO, I think that tool is like the god of all tools that's available in the market. And SEM Rush has really nailed SEO for all the companies. Uh, let's take any example. Let's say anything that comes up to your mind. Any example? Anything in the chat? Yeah, I call it SEM Rush. I'm just typing SEM Rush. So if there's an SEO specialist who's running into it, I'm sure he must be using SEM Rush. Yeah, Href is there's another keyword fetching tool, but SEM Rush has a lot more activity that we can do, and I have really found it very. Let's just write generic thing. Let's say we'll type about Samsung smartphone. Get results. I'm sorry, my internet is very bad. Okay, fine. So there are like, can you see here? There are like 1,888 and even more type of term that people search for, and these are the terms that people use: Samsung smartphone, Samsung Galaxy S10, S8, etc., etc. So these are basically these are the variants of this keyword which people keep on searching. And let's say if you are selling, let's say you are on an online website, let's say Flipkart is trying to sell Samsung Galaxy M31, then you can actually target this keyword, and the content of that particular web page should be about everything about Samsung Galaxy M31. Even the URL structure should be something around there. Let's do a quick search about it and let's see what all companies have done. So this is the keyword that I'm searching. Now look at this example. I searched for Samsung Galaxy M31 and look at their structure. GSM Arena, Samsung underscore Galaxy underscore M31. It's a very badly processed, I would say, URL structure. But look at this Samsung. Samsung has done a better job than GSM Arena. Maybe that's the reason they're coming up on the top. Samsung.com/whatever, then smartphone / then there's Galaxy M. That's how they've broken it up. Now let's look at an Amazon example and to see what all information they have. And why is maybe Google picking them up in the first page of a search history? Because it gives them all the product information, this pricing information, and because Google understands that when somebody is searching for this particular piece, he's looking to buy it, and probably to buy it he needs more information about the pricing, about the features, and I think Amazon web page does a pretty good job of explaining all these things. And even this is the same, it's in the URL structure. Maybe it's usually you will see this kind of URL structures in e-commerce sites. I won't go into deep, but you will in general you will see this. So we need to understand, because now look at this. There's Amazon, there's NDTV, there's GSM Arena, Samsung itself. These are the top 4-5 websites which are coming up, and then you will see more. Let's say. And there will be a lot of pages that are on 8 and 9 who none of us go. But then look at this. There's ID price ID code, gadgets. Even they're trying to compete but their URL structure or the content is not apt. That's the reason they're not coming up on the top. And look at here are another examples what people search for. They also, so instead of just typing Samsung Galaxy M31, they also look for Samsung Galaxy M31 price, review. Let's say somebody's like price in Bangladesh, 8 GB RAM, Amazon, etc., etc. These are also the terms which people search for this particular keyword. So whenever your SEO guide is optimizing the content of the page or doing technical SEO, he will take care of all these things into categorization. When I talked about, like formally when I explained you, when I said that Google is looking to give you the best answer, is also looking to understand your intent. As in, whenever you're searching for something, what is the intent behind that particular keyword? Because as I said, that English is a very funny language, and English is being used for searching. Nowadays, they have started analyzing various regional languages, but let's stick to English. Sometimes things that we type may not be the same. For example, let's look at container charges versus container price. I want to give you my example. When I was running ads, when I came to Kogopod initially, so I thought that container price versus container charge is a very similar keyword, because price is like synonym of charge. Price is a synonym of charges, which is like almost the same. But let's look at let me look in incognito mode, container price. So I have stopped running ads, but Maersk is still running this ad. So this container price, container charges. All right. So look at container price. Ignore the ad which is being run. Now look at the first page. Used shipping container, second-hand shipping containers. The intent of this keyword is to buy a container, which is like a particular person wants to own this container. There's nothing about shipping, wherein he does not want a 20-feet or 40-feet FCL container to ship his cargo from his destination to from his location to the other destination. He wants to own it. He wants to buy it. Now, do you understand the intent? So container price is, the intent is very different. And that's the reason you look at this 40-foot shipping containers for sale, which means you want to buy a container. You don't want to rent, as in there's no shipping or logistics involved into it. You want to own that particular container for anything XYZ. Some people are using this containers for, look at this 20-foot office container. Somebody use it for office space. As in Kogopod itself, we have a containerized meeting rooms. There are specific, we got into containers, we have converted that into meeting rooms. And probably the guy who bought it, he bought it like this. He would have searched for container price. This is the intent. Now look at container charge. When I look at container charge, it talks about freight rates, port charges, local charges, ocean and sea freight charges, freight rates. Can you look at this? Charge and price are like almost similar, synonyms, but intent. And Google understands this. That's the best thing about it. Look at this. For container price, here even the ads you can see, it's all about purchasing this container type, homes or portable office containers, whatever it is. But here, do you see this? You don't see this. That's the best part of Google, because Google understands intent. And this is what I wanted to show you. Similarly, I would request when you go home, you might think that this is what a keyword which a lot of people search about it, but in actual they don't. And the intent can be something else. So there's one example which is like formal shoe versus running shoe. But when you go home today, think about your product or service, think about what is happening, and just go to Google and search, and you will realize the intent of that particular keyword. And this is like this particular thing, I've shared it here because this was a live example. It was an eye opener for me, and we lost a lot of money bidding on container price keywords. And then I realized that I've been wasting money. I stopped running, and that's the reason only Maersk is still running ads on this. They should stop it. I don't know why they're doing it. But it's a live example that I've been giving it to you. So now let's look at, in general, what all improvements that you can do to a particular page. And I'm going to show you by one by one examples. Let's look at these terms, as in what are the common mistakes. First and foremost thing that I want to tell you that forget about homepage. Homepage generally gives in a lot of information. What you should do is now look at Samad's page itself. Now in this product page, even though they have listed 2 products, I would highly recommend that each page should talk about only one product, so that the intent is clear. For Google, it makes him sense that okay, this is only about dehydrated onion, red and white. Chances are high that it might pop up on the top of the page. So whenever you do this, one page, the intent of the whole explanation should be about only one thing only. This page is not wrong. I just want to clarify, because it talks about your products. So this whole page is about your product. It is still correct, but I would recommend to have a better SEO. Should have 2 separate web pages for each of your product. Sometimes I've seen that a website in one page, they have a lot of content, and it is very confusing that what exactly are you trying to talk about. And so let me take you through one by one. I'll give you an example of Kogopod itself, at what we have done itself. Now, when I look at this page itself, as in freight rate quote, the whole page is talking about freight rates. Because whenever a user comes in, he understands this whole page is about freight rates. How do you get it? What are the benefits? From where do you get it? You can see let's go from top. It gives you a clean discovery that whenever you come to a page, you can find freight rates instantly. There's a picture that gives you some symbolization. This is like a social proofing wherein we say that not just you who are trying to do it, but much more than 15,000 SMEs are already using Cogoport to identify freight rates for their sea or air shipments, and they're also booking from us. And why now here we are saying that why are we better than others? How are we better than other freight forwarders? The simple answer is on with other freight forwarders you might have one or two people, two or three rates, but because Cogoport is a platform, it's a marketplace where we have got India's best freight forwarders, custom agents, truckers, all available. So you will not just get only single or two rates for any trade lane, for any to and from destination, any port to port or any door to door. You have multiple rate option and you can choose based on your convenience. So we are giving you the choice, multiple choices. That's why we are saying that we are better than others. In a way, we are trying to say that. And what we are saying, we'll give you the rates only from verified and trusted forwarders only, because we have done some assessment from them. We know they're an expert, maybe in commodity, maybe they're an expert for a shipping line, maybe they're expert in a particular trade lane. They have a very good bargaining power, and that's why we have got them on board. And whenever you're booking on Cogoport, your cargo is being handled by an expert. It's again talking about this freight rates. And then we also say that you see all the rates breakup, as in you see the surcharges, the locals, whatever charges are available, it's all available on a screen itself, along with the basic freight. So you're aware the rates are transparent, and etc. etc. Whatever we're talking about. Now look at this page. The whole page is only talking about freight rates. And similarly, if you go through all our pages, you will understand that we're only talking about one particular thing in one particular pages. And that's the reason I'll show you something. Let me go to incognito mode. Let's go here and search for freight rates. Now, here is a Wikipedia page. Here is a World Freight Day 2020. Now, here is Cogoport. Now, even Google sees that our page answers all the questions and talks. It has a very relevant, authentic content, and it is very. That's why I'm telling you why you should have a single page talking about the same thing itself. We are ranking at almost like what? I think after Wikipedia, 2, 3, third number, and I'm sure we gradually will be increasing our number, and that's the best part of this. We are almost in the top, and this is incognito mode. Why I recommend whenever you search anything, search for incognito mode, because what happens is when you're searching in a normal browser. Based on a past search history, Google tries to optimize the search content too. So if you want to look at general Outlook view, always go to incognito mode, which is like here you go to incognito mode, because in the incognito mode, there's something called cookie, which stores information about your search behavior, etc., etc. Google cannot understand and cannot access that. So this is pretty neat, almost private. So you always use incognito mode to search about keywords which is relevant to your business. And that's one of the examples. Now let me go back. One of the first thing that we said that focus on one page at a time and confusing content. So each page should have content which is relevant to only one particular topic, that is freight rates. Here, this page, we're talking everything about freight. Now let's talk about second thing, no meta title or no title or meta title. Now what do I mean by that? Here, let me show you, I've opened up. All right. So whenever you search something, let's look at freight rates itself. I think this example. Now let's go at this freight rates. So this thing that you see here is called meta title. This is the technical title, and this is what we call meta description. It's basically headline and description. In short, in whatever, I don't need to go into deep into it. So it has to be relevant. When I'm searching for freight rates, world freight rates, so which is very almost similar to freight rates, and then look at freight calculator, get instant free container shipping estimates, as well as break bulk and bulk purchase cargo from anywhere to anywhere in the world. This is describing. So you read this. This is very important because whenever you search for it, usually people scan through this, and then they realize, okay, I think this looks relevant for me. I click on it. Look at this for Cogoport. Shipping freight quotes and rates for international containers. relevant for freight rates. Now look at this, the description. Instantly check international sea freight rates calculators online and compare rates of various shipping lines and NVOCCs. Know more on factors impacting freight rates, etc., whatever it is. But this description and meta title is relevant for this particular keyword. That's the reason Google is ranking us above a lot of other pages, and it has got us on the top third. But still, we're not the best because we're not. Wikipedia is still giving the better answer for freight rate. So you need to think about it. Now let's look at. Can I take an example of others? As in, let me go to the chat and can somebody else put in their website, please? Let's look at. Have you worked on meta title or not? Title and meta title. All right. I'm going for indogsp.com. Let me copy. This is one way of identifying. I'll just remove this. Now look at this. So if you want to look at if I have meta title or not, meta title and meta description, do this site colon, and then just drop in your website name. Do not remove the HTTP and everything else. That will bring you to here. Now look at here. These are all your. It brings about all the pages and what have you mentioned. For a home page, it's correct, but I think what you need to work on is for the home. This is for home page. You need to work on your meta description. This does not describe what your company does. It gives your address, which is a very wrong thing. So you're supposed to write what your company does here. Ensure whoever is looking after a website, just tell them to update the meta description for your page. For About Us, we also ensure to bring you a wide range of products. Even here you need to change it. This is the product page. Okay, this is Chemical LLP. If this page is talking about this particular chemical, then it should be in the keyword and then the description. So I hope you get the gist of it. That's what I meant to mean. You need to look into this. Ensure that your meta title, meta description is matching what is the intent of the page. Always look into it. Let me take another example. Let's look at jcbattery.net. But they have done a better job. There's a well-defined meta title which talks about the automatic tubular UPS inverters is a leading battery manufacturer which supplies. Now they have for the homepage. I won't go deep into it, but for the homepage, the job is done. As in, this is what I'm exactly looking at. It's a good job. Kudos to you guys. Now let's move on from this. Now we looked at one page, single focus. We looked at title, meta title. Now, what is H1 and H2 tags? Let me take you to our website itself. Now, what is H1 and H2? In short, to explain in layman language, H1 is like the headline or the headline of a topic. Now, this page, so what Google sees is, and okay, let's first talk about what is H1 and H2, and then I'll go to it. H1 is like the headline of the particular web page. Let's look at like an article. So the topic of the article is the headline H1, and the subtopics, which are like the minuscule pointers, and they are H2. Now, so you need to ensure that whatever the page main theme is, it should be in H1. It's a bit technical, but I'll show you here. So whenever you go to your page and do a right click here, go to inspect. See, can you see this is H1 class? And even here you can see on your left side screen, there's a H1 prop coming up. So our SEO guy has done an excellent job, and this gives the signal to Google that this page is about discovering freight rates and quotes instantly, which means this gives a clear-cut signal that whenever somebody is searching for freight rates, this page could be one of the potential answers. So H1 gives a very clear answer. So this will be like a headline. So your headline of the web page, the main theme of the web page should be mentioned, and that should be in H1 tag. In your SEO guy, whoever is looking after it, you can question him, is it done or not? And then the subtopics. Let's look at this. Is this in H2? Now look at this here. This is in H2. This is a subtopic. Similarly, this would be in H2. I'm assuming this should be in H2. Yes, this is again in H2. These are the subtopics. And all this content, these are in paragraph format. These are not in H2. These are subtopic headers. All right. This will be in H2. So for your website, you need to ensure that these are the basic things that are being mentioned. Let me look at this page, Samad. This ideally I'm as hide the height because your product is should be in H1. This should be in H2. Let me inspect and see what's done or not. Okay, this is in H3. So maybe I would recommend, I don't know what has been gone through the thought process, but ideally this should be in H2. And this should be also in H2. Dehydrated garlic should be in H2. Currently it is in H3. All right. These are something that you need to understand whenever you're working with an SEO guy. He or she needs to, you can question him, why H1, why H2. Now I hope you understand how to go about it. Now let's say I'm writing compare freight rate, and under that there are 3 more subtopics, subtopics that can be in H3. So you should look at like in hierarchy. I think H1, H2 would be clear to you. In case any questions you can drop in, we'll take it up later. Now let's look at poorly named images. Why is it important? Now, see, Google has limitation. It cannot read pictures. It cannot. So you send him a picture. There are technology, yes, Google is trying to build AI, etc., but the bot that I've built in for the website's current capability is not there. So then what should we do? Should we even add pictures? There is something called alt text. It's a might be a bit technical. I'm just going to write it in the chat in case I'm not audible. It's called alt text. I mentioned that in the chat. It's called alt text. What is alt text? Alt text is basically adding text to the image, as in representing what the text, what does the image say about. If I click here, again, the same thing, inspect. Can you see here something called alt? See, this is the image. The image, the link being uploaded by the technical guy. But here, if you see alt is equal to discover freight rates and quotes. This is how Google reads this image. The Google will read this as discover freight rates and quotes. Alt plus image. It does not understand picture. There's a lot of text to your vendor, cheapest, Maersk. Google understands nothing of this, will not analyze this picture. All he understands that this picture represents something which is discover freight rates and quotes. That's it. Now let's look at I'm sorry, yeah, some other page. Trident International. Let me see what have they done. Sorry, didn't copy it well. All right, then I'm assuming the page is very heavy. You need to look into this. I don't know why it didn't load. All right, let's look at, so there's automotive batteries. Let's look at this. Have they added an alt text? I can't scroll, I don't know why. But I'm assuming, look at what is written is I think, I don't know why you can't scroll it here, but what I can see, yeah, okay, it's done. Now look at this. Your image, this, Google is reading it as 05 underscore thumbnail. Immediately get it changed. This is what I'm talking. There's one basic error which has been done here. All your images need to have proper alt image, alt text, which is alt. This needs to be changed. Google does not understand. That's the reason this could also hamper your ranking. So whatever this picture represents, let's say this picture represents UPS inverter batteries. Alt text should be something relevant to this. All these pictures, I'm assuming I'll not go into deep, but all these images needs to have alt text, which is very important. Google does not read this. Now imagine for Google, what is 05 underscore thumbnail? It's nothing. Nobody will search for 05 underscore thumbnail. And this picture becomes irrelevant. Even though for the user it's good, but for Google, it does not help the user get the right answer. So you need to work on this. So we have talked about poorly named images, heavy images. Why I'm talking about heavy images is because, so each image, as a rule of thumb, look at it as as small as you can, could be in like 10, 12 kbs, kilobytes, because this images, the heavier it is, the heavier it takes to load. And just like when I try to open, I'm sorry, when I try to open, let's say, let's try to open this organic cotton dress. It's taking me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now they have a lot of images here. It's a e-commerce site, almost an e-commerce site, and they have a lot of images. What we need to do is we need to look at optimizing the size of these images. I'm assuming because there are a lot of images, it's trying to make this site pretty heavy. And if there's a way we can reduce the size, we should always work on it. So whoever is a developer, can you talk to them and see if there's a way we can reduce the size of these images, and so that the loading speed. Trust me, we did this experiment for a Google Ads in UK, and what we realized is when there was one page that was generally giving me a conversion of like 8%, and worked with my developer. So it took us like 3.5 seconds or more to load that particular page. We worked with my developer. We tried to reduce it by almost by 1 second. So it got us like almost 2 seconds. The website was loading at a normal speed. My conversion rate shot up. It went to 12%. By 4% increase in conversion is like amazing. And we were shocked to see the response. And we started working on the whole of our website to ensure that it loads as fast as we can. So ensure, and usually what happens is because of these pictures, I'm sorry, let me sip some water. And usually what happens is because one of the reasons, it's not the only reason, one of the reasons could be that images are heavy, and this could slow down your website. If the website slows down, usually after 3 to 4 seconds, even not in 3 to 4, general norm is like more than 2 seconds, people drop off. They will leave the website and go off. You're losing a lot of traffic because of that. So you need to work on it. Not mobile optimized. Not mobile optimized, like I've already spoken about it. And I'll go again that we need to ensure that our websites are mobile optimized. 60%, more than 60% will access your website from your phone. It should be available. No canonical tags. Okay, so canonical tags is a bit technical term. In the PPT that I'll share, I'll also share a reference for you guys to understand this in case you want to understand. In a very layman's language, what happens is, let me give you an idea. Let me show this content itself. The CocoaPort rate discovery page. We have this page. Let's say I decide to have a mobile version, not mobile responsive. I want to have a separate website, the same content, but there will be different link. It could be like m.cocoport.com/discover rates. Let's say I'm having separate link. The URL is different. The content is almost the same. And let's say what cases I can use. For example, I want to have a separate link for UK. Let's say there's some 1 or 2 content that I want to change. Let's say these are Indian pictures. I want to make it UK-based company pictures, and everything else remains same because there's not much difference. And I want to use it for UK. So because the URL is same, but the URL is different, but the content is same, Google might find it as a duplicacy of content. That 2 pages, same content, you're trying to, generally, if there's a lot of duplicacy of content, Google might think you're spamming people or something else. In that case, canonical tag in a layman language tells Google, it's a technical term, which your SEO specialist will look into it, you don't need to bother. Your canonical tag basically tells Google that this is the primary page, you follow this content, everything else you forget. So in that case, Google understands, okay, even if he in some way he finds out, okay, there's a duplicate pages, but this is the page that I need to scan and show to people, other page is fine. I don't need to take care of it. So canonical tags act like a gatekeeper and tells Google that, brother, you don't need to get inside. You just focus on one single gate, don't come to this gate. In just a way, that's how canonical tag works. But if you want to understand, go deep, there's a link that I've added. I'll share this PPT later, and you can look into it. All right. I think I've spoken about how do you optimize your page, a lot about what Google does, etc., etc. There's one secret SEO technique that I wanted to share with all of you guys. But before that, as in, because it's been a stretch, any question that you have so that I can take it up from you guys, and then maybe I'll touch upon this last two topics. Any questions? You can drop in the chat, or I'm sure we can take it up.
Anyash, let's finish the presentation. For the audience, in case you have any questions, please keep posting. We'll take it up.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think you just keep on posting up the questions, and we'll start working on it.
We're about to end the presentation in next 5-10 minutes. So just keep on posting the questions. We'll take up everything once the presentation gets done.
Sorted. All right, then let me as a breather, something very interesting technique that I'm going to tell you guys, and it's purely using content. This breaks up into, let's just ignore this slide. I'm going to come to this example. Let me make it a full screen. Let me take you to that particular slide. Yeah. So what is the technique? So let me give you an example. All right. So let's say there's a place wherein you see a lot of varieties of rose flowers. When you see a lot of varieties of rose flowers, you assume that it is a rose garden. Google works on the same way. For example, let's say here is an example on the left which talks about apple pie. Let's say you're an online website who only specializes in apple pie. What you will be doing, you will be having a lot of apple pie pictures, varieties of apple pie pictures. Like an e-commerce site, you can apple pies with strawberries, apple pie with blueberries, apple pie with whipped cream, etc., etc. You'll have listed everything else. But how do you ensure that you increase your ranking in the keyword which is apple pie? And how do you want, what do you want? You want basically Google to see you as a person who knows about everything about apple pie, and you're a leader about apple pie. It's like talking about, let's say there's a guy who comes up and he talks everything about, let's say he talks everything about politics. You assume that he's a politician. A guy who keeps on talking about, let's say a guy TV comes to a TV and he talks a lot about vaccines, about COVID-19, etc., etc. What do you assume? You assume he's a doctor. So even that Google analyzes web content similarly. When you are talking about a lot of different varieties, which is relevant to your topic, which is like, for example, here, guide to apple pie, and let's look at subtopics. There's one article which they have written. I'm sorry, one article they've written on apple pie ingredients. There's one article on apple pie nutritional facts, one article on low-fat apple pies, how to bake apple pie recipes, best apple pie recipes. Now look at this. So when Google sees that, okay, there's a website, could be any .com, any xyz.com, and then when it's going through their blog, he sees that there are a lot of articles on apple pie. So Google assumes that this particular website is a thought leader and is a very expert in apple pie. So whenever some user goes and searches anything about apple pie, because Google thinks that this particular website has good content about apple pie, he can answer all his questions. So he'll show this website in the top. It's very simple and commonsensical. Just apply common sense. So what you're supposed to do is, now look at us. For example, for me as a Kogo port, because I want that whenever somebody is thinking about freight rates, somebody is thinking about shipping his cargo using ocean shipping or air or truck from door to port, I want him to think about me. So what we have started doing is we've started creating a lot of content around the topics, about various topics. Now, if you go to a blog, you can find content about everything and anything about shipping. And we are bringing, at least there's one good blog that we're trying to bring every week. And that the article has to be top-notch quality. Quality is very important because everybody else, we have competition in the market. Everybody else is also doing it. How do you better them? By bringing best quality article and content in your platform. So what do you do? Now, here is the technique. In the center, which is on the top, is a guide to apple pie. What does guide to apple pie mean? A guide to apple pie is basically a thesis book. It should have everything about apple pie. what is apple pie, how do you bake apple pie, what all varieties of ways of making an apple pie, what all shops you can buy apple pie from, what are the best chefs who are known to bake apple pies. Whatever content you can bring into the guide to apple pie. This should be like an ebook, which is like a 15-20 pager PDF. All right. This is how you should tackle it. Create one PDF which is like 15 to 20 pages. It has all the content about apple pie from basics to advanced. It has everything content, good quality content. Focus on that, and then you publish it. Step two. Now look at this small subtopics. Apple pie ingredients. Now there's an article. What are the best apple pie ingredients you can use? There should be one article about it. There should be one article about apple pie nutritional facts. One article about low fat apple pie, etc. And then what you do is you link it. There's something called backlinking, wherein on my website itself I'll add one line wherein they say that if you want to know everything about apple pie, click here. That suffices. You add the same link here, and all these articles. Basically, you're linking all this content to this central article. So what Google will do is Google will understand that because all these things are linked, it's basically like creating a powerhouse of content. Google will think that you are like a thought leader and you are an expert about apple pie, and whenever there's somebody searching for apple pie, will come to you. You need to approach the content like this. So whenever you think about keywords or topics, don't think like keywords. Keywords are okay. Right now, we need to think about topics. So for me, freight rates is a topic. For you, it could be anything. For example, the battery company, they need to look at automobile battery as a topic. And then we create a PDF, which is like a 10, 20, 15 pages PDF talking about everything about this battery, whatever they can add, and then create such subtopics around batteries. Maybe one could be like all the customers who use the battery. One of the articles could be, and then there would be one line. If you want to understand everything about our battery, you can click on this PDF and download it. There's some other terms that I'll just touch upon. I won't go deep into it about SEO. And just because if the SEO guy with whomever is working is throwing off these words, you should know about what it is. One is on-page SEO. On-page SEO is basically whatever I have told you till now, wherein you're working on your page itself. You're not going everywhere else. What is off-page? Off-page is everywhere else apart from your page, wherein, for example, social media, newspapers, online media. For example, for us, we ensure that whenever we have a blog post, we update that on social media. And we also want that a lot of newspapers have written about Cocoport, like Economic Times, Times of India, a lot of regional newspapers, Exim. They have written about us and they have mentioned that our link on their online website. So what happens is when Google goes to scrape their website and sees that, okay, there is a link because the topic, let's say Economic Times is writing about freight rates, and Economic Times article has my website name or Cocoport mentioned there. Google, when he's scrolling through that, when he's scrolling that website with that particular web page, and sees Cocoport is mentioned, it will add 1 point to it, saying that because Economic Times is a very big newspaper company, Google sees them as a very big authoritative leader, and if that particular page is telling that Cocoport as a reference for freight rates, which means Cocoport is specialized in freight rates. So this also adds to my domain ranking. It tells that okay, Cocoport is also a thought leader in freight rate. So that is what is off pages. What is local SEO? A local SEO is basically ranking for your offline stores. Let's say you have an offline restaurant or page where you want people to come then visit regularly. That's where local SEO comes in. And listing on Google business pages a must for all of you guys. As in, be that office address, because somebody who's trying to reach your office, if you are listed on Google business page, he can easily find you on map and come to you. There'll be mobile number, working hours, etc., etc. Search about it, you'll get to know. Right. The end of the session is how do you measure the impact, which is very important. All the activities you do, there has to be some way that you can measure, okay, I did everything, what is the output? So here are a few things that you need to look at. 3 things, more important: increase in organic traffic, increase in brand and non-brand searches, improvement in the ranking of the target keywords. How do you do that? So Google has something called Google Analytics. And I'm going to show you our company's organic traffic. This is in February 2020. We were having like organic traffic was like 8,465. We started working on it on SEO. Now, gradually, look at this. Around June, I think it increased by 2,000. Look at today, between January this month, we have 20,000 users per month. It more than doubled, and it is not a single day effect. We were working on each and everything. We changed our website. We started producing content. We ensured we are targeting right keywords. We looked at on page, off page, and all the things that I've told you. We were working dedicatedly each and every day, and gradually, it started increasing. This is my success for my company. Similarly, the SEO guy who works for you, you need to ask him what, or you tell him that to link Google Analytics and show him the report. If you don't understand, just tell him, show me the increase of organic traffic of the efforts. And it takes 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. SEO is a long-term process. It's not immediate. It does not give you results immediately, but it does gradually. And this is the impact that we have gotten for my company. And somebody who is working for you, you judge him based on this increase. Tell him what is happening, and then you look at what is brand terms. Brand terms are like, for example, CocoPort. For me, brand term is CocoPort. A lot of people search for CocoPort, CGPRT, etc., etc. All these are brand terms. If more and more people are searching for brand terms and non-brand searches, SEO perspective, from organic perspective, I would see non-branded searches, which is like not related to CocoPort, but everything else. When somebody is searching for anything else and he comes to my website, which is relevant to my website, and then still comes up, that becomes my advantage. I'll show you. Let me show you if I can show the landing page. Anyways, let's look at it separately. But okay, let me take it up to your landing page. Now look at this. Apart from my, this is for homepage. Apart from this, look at this, how many people are coming to my blog. There's a blog called Export Process from India, and approximately 6% of the traffic comes from here. There's an industry notification page wherein what we do is we bring in all the industry notification that is specific to exports and imports, shipping, freight rates. Whatever notification come from shipping line, from government, etc., we have collated them, we've added into one single page, and organically we are bringing a lot of people. Look at these blogs, shipping terms, other web pages. They are bringing in a lot of traffic. So we think about it, we bring about such content on our pages, and then we're bringing organic traffic. And all these people who have visited, they right now know about CocoPort, and some of them are converted to become our customers. So that's how you measure the impact. And I think that's it from my side. And the floor is all to your guys too. If you have whatever questions you have, I'm ready to take that up.
All right, Abhinash, we have 3 questions.
Sure.
One from Mr. Tanmay. He says, can you make different URLs for a different country? For example, for UK, a different web page, and for Singapore, a different web page.
Yeah, give me a second.
So the rest of them, you can pose the questions out here. We'll take it up, all the questions now.
Yeah, sure. See, if you're specifically dealing in UK market, as in it's a very big market. As in, I'm not talking about 1 to 5 customers. You're dealing with 100, 200, 300 customers. Then you can go and have a very specific website for UK, specific for Singapore, specific. Because if there's no need of having separate, why do you need a separate page? Is the question that you need to first ask yourself. Am I getting like 1,000, 4,000, 5,000 customers from UK? First question. If not, second, do I need to create a separate page for UK? Can my current page that is I'm running in India, is that not relevant in UK? If that is not relevant in UK, then you can create a second page. For example, in CocoPort, initially, when we started running, we started single page. Then we realized that the content which we're using for India did not work in UK because our business model is different in UK and Netherlands. The way we are servicing those exporters and importers there, it's a bit different. So the same content didn't work. That's the reason when we decided, all right, for India, we'll have a separate page. For UK, we'll have a separate page. For Netherlands, we'll have a separate page. But we have the same page for India, Dubai, Singapore. Because we know it works. The same content works in these countries. So you have to ask this question to yourself. Does my content not meeting the needs of UK customers, or is something else? If this problem is being solved, you don't need a separate page. That's my advice to you.
We hope this answers your question, Mr. Tanmay. The second question is from Mr. Weber. How international SEO can be done effectively for different markets through the same website?
Yeah. So it's actually a tough question, honestly, when we are trying to do that. Uh, for the same website, what you need to do are two, three things that your SEO expert will look into. One is if you go to Search Console, there is something where is called country restriction, as a you, which tells you either you want your website to be looked into India or you want it global. If you're focused on India, then ensure India. But I'm assuming if you're doing it for international market, ensure that on your Search Console it's global, so that website goes up. Now, what you need to do is look at. I'll give you a very amazing example which I realized when I was running ads. For me, uh, in UK, a lot of people are searching for this. This is the keywords I'm talking about. Keywords like shipping from UK to China, UK to India, UK to Egypt, UK to Turkey, UK to Thailand. These are the keywords that they're searching for. What we are trying to do is right now we have trade lane wise content. So if somebody searches for UK to China, we have a trade lane wise specific web page wherein this will come up in the search ranking and he will come and find it out. UK to China, an Indian user will not search for that same. So you need to do some keyword research and see that what is your UK customer or international customer, specific country customer is looking for, and if you can have separate pages targeting those content, that might help you out. Because that's one of the things that I've identified, which has helped our company, and we're gonna build it upon. We have recently figured that out, and we are working on it to start targeting those keywords. So the only way is start looking at what kind of keywords they're searching for. What is an UK customer searching? If you can find that content, and if your current website is not meeting that requirement, create some web pages. It could be like, for example, let's say trident.com/UK slash the URL structure. I'm not sure about the URL structure. I'm just randomly talking about it, but you can have some specific content which can meet their problems. And if that content is very relevant for the keyword that they're searching for, your job is done. Your SEO is done.
All right. We have a question from Ms. Asmi, which suggests, would you suggest getting SEO done by contracting vendor or having an in-house team is better for any non-SME company?
See, pros and cons I'm going to talk about. If you have a single SEO guy, now obviously, if you have a single SEO guy in your company, there's nobody to judge him. There's nobody to guide him or tell him what to do, what not to do. He might do his job, not do his job. You will have no clue what to do, what not to do. However, it's always an advantage to have in-house guy because you're sitting on his head and seeing what work he's doing or not. But then it'll be like you're looking at it and understanding nothing. And initial stage, I would recommend that you look at an agency who does the job. The reason is because SME will have an agency will have a pool of people to work on a project, and you can tag that to performance basis and tell them that you give me regular this report. Because SEO is not at times we feel that it's a single man job. It's not a single man job. It takes a lot of hard work. Trust me. Even Cogopod itself, we have an SEO guy in house, but we're also working with an agency for a part of the job because it needs a lot of people to get that job done. Initially, because it's so at a small scale level, you don't need to hire an in-house guy. Get an agency to start working on it. Start giving them look at into payment terms, but agency would be an apt for starting for an SME that absolutely works on bang on.
All right. Mr. Shankar is asking if
it is free. Yeah, Google Analytics is free. And whoever up to a certain number of users, but that number is pretty huge. We're still using it for free. What you do is whoever your web developer is, just tell them to integrate it, and you can start accessing it. And again, one more thing for benefit of all, Google has all the courses for free. All right. How did I become digital marketer? I studied those for free. Honestly, I studied those, started implementing for my company, and started growing it. And it does wonders. It's completely free. It will hardly take you 3 to 4 hours. 3 to 4 hours is not a good lot of time to understand this. What is Google Analytics, Google AdWords? They've nicely, neatly, they have good videos, combination of articles and videos they've gotten. Google has everything for free. Go read that. Even if you want certification, you do that. It's completely free. You don't need to go and pay someone to study this. It's completely free. Yeah, please.
In addition to Mr. Tanmay's question earlier and the answer which you've given, he's asking how to choose hosting to ensure proper load speeds in other countries, how translations affect SEO.
See, hosting is because currently, if you have a single page, or the number of pages is what you need to look at, and the weight of it. If they don't have various pages, and it's a like the two to three, four, 5 pages, then shared hosting works. Does not matter that much. But if you're having a large web page, like 100, 200 web pages, 300 web pages, you will have to have individual servers, as not as a shared service, but as an independent server, which is just dedicated to you, because that will help you increase the load speed. When talking about in other countries, does not matter, because I think, let's say if you're using something like GoDaddy or any server, it's all global. It's on cloud, so country doesn't matter. But you need to look at in terms of shared space versus the individual space. If you have a lot of web pages, I would recommend taking individual page. That might be expensive, but it gives an amazing load speed. But if you have 2 to 3 pages, then don't waste, or like even 10 pages is good enough. You don't need to spend a lot of money. Shared hosting works. Does not matter. Unless, if you still feel, then just talk to a developer and then they'll give you the right advice. That shouldn't be a problem. And how translations affect SEO? All right. It does. I think regional content is helping up. A lot of people are struggling with regional content. And if you have translation, for example, let's say you're targeting Netherlands, Dutch content does wonder. Trust me. It's like we have learned it the hard way. You start using Dutch content. Translation is hardly expensive. In India, a lot of people do their translations. Get it translated, start running a website. It helps you bring up, because let's say if he is searching in Dutch and your page is already in Dutch, and a lot of people are not competing, then you're obviously on the top. It does help. It also improves the customer experience. As I said in the beginning, think about how this is solving a customer's problem. And if the customer does not understand English, he's comfortable with Dutch, and you're solving his problems using Dutch language, bang on. You're on the top. Hope that answers that.
All right. We had a look at Mr. Prabhu's website, which is full of images. So he's asking whether no content is good or not, because his complete website is full of images.
See, images is content. All right. It's not that images are not content. Or there has to be some text. Look at the right balance. Now, for example, I'm assuming it's a e-commerce website that we look, right? Is this organic cotton dress? Is it that website? Is this Mr. Prabhu? Yes. Okay. Yeah. So now let me look at just loading. Just give me a second. Yeah. There's a one major thing that is missing in your site is, as I say, it's only pictures. It's a problem. You have to add description. Let's say, for example, I went to boxes section and like men t-shirt section, and I click. I went like 4 to 5 clicks, then I went up to the product, and there's not much information that's available about it. Highly recommended that look at Amazon, because there's an e-commerce. Study Amazon's. Each product has a lot of descriptions. That is how it instigates people to purchase. Add the information. Product. If it's not an e-commerce, just for a B2B, still you add those information and keep a button. Each place that should have a button saying raise a request or raise a code if it's a B2B, if it's a B2C and you want them to buy, click there, whatever it is. But look at Amazon's or Alibaba. If it's B2B, look at Alibaba's website. If it's B2C, look at Amazon's site and see how each product page has been created. There's product information. They've added reviews. You might not have reviews, but that's okay. Product information, pricing, any terms and conditions. So the more information you give about the product, it's good. So please do add text to it. And ensure that each picture that you have added, it has all text.
All right, we have a question from Mr. Omar. Does the Google optimize the website based on the customer location also?
Wait, so you're saying, does the Google optimize? Can you repeat the question, please?
Does the Google optimize the website based on the customer location also?
Okay. Google does not optimize website based on customer location. I'm just not understanding because this is not the right question. I'm assuming, is the question, should you optimize based on customer's location? Or are you asking that does Google change the ranking of the places based on customers' location? If that's the question, then yes. So, for example, let's say I'm in Mumbai and I'm searching for something. Chances are very high that it will show me those websites which are available locally, nearby my location. All right. So, for example, let's say, as in that's what local SEO comes into play. You're standing in, let's say, I'm assuming you're a faculty at IMU, you're sitting at IMU, you're searching for food. It will obviously show you based on recency, frequency, and reviews. So this is what it plays around, and it tells you that okay, this is the best restaurant that's available, that's near to you within, let's say, 2 kilometer radius or 1 kilometer radius, and it has the best review, and you might want to buy from it. It does. Based on location, it impacts the ranking of the websites. Yes.
All right. We have a question from Mr. Harsh. How much difference does it make if we have a website which is in .co.in domain or .com, especially for the export?
There is an update that there's not much of difference, but I would recommend to have a .com domain if it's possible. If the .com domain nobody else has taken, because I understand usually when I want to go for .com domain, but then if somebody has bought it and the price is too high, I want to go for .co.in. It's a plus minus thing that I would say. But as in, obviously having .com is an advantage and we should go for it. But if it's heavy, and namely to look at it as a business decision, as in if you have to spend a lot of money to get that .com domain, because the impact on SEO is not large, right? It's 0.00 some percent. So, and if you can very well acquire .com domain, take it, because if you're being an exporter, go for .com.
All right. We have a question from Mr. Ramsari. How many keywords are good for SEO?
There is no quantifiable number for it. What you need to look at now, if I have to approach at keywords, so what happens is there's something called difficulty level, because what happens is just not you in the market is doing SEO. The competitors are also doing SEO for the keywords. So ideally, when an SEO specialist look at keywords, he'll look at, when he searches, he'll look at like hundreds, thousands of keywords are available. But how should he pick the right keyword at first stage one? The right thing to do is the keywords which has decent volume but low competition or low difficulty. When I say difficulty, which means not many people are trying to rank for the keyword. If many people are trying to rank for the keyword, then they're doing it for like months and months of time, and you have just started. It's gonna take a lot of money, efforts to rank for it. The first stage when he will pick it up, this is what an expert would do. He will pick up those keywords which has decent volume. Volume means in terms of search volume. How many people, number of people searching. Search volume, but mid difficulty or lower difficulty, as in less competition. So if there's a less competition on the keyword and has a decent volume, I'll pick those keywords. It could be 1, 2, 5, 10, depends. But he will ideally pick those keywords and try to attack, because these are the places where you can already rank. So why don't you capture the territory instead of trying to capture the territory which has already been bombarded? As in, there are 3-4 players fighting to capture the territory, and there's one small territory which is available to you. Not many people are fighting. Go grab that first, because that's going to take a lot of time, money, and effort. And you can obviously very well, after you have captured this uncaptured territory, go back to the territory, capture it, not a problem. I hope that answers that.
All right. We have one last question from Mr. Sriram. Does privacy policy have an effect on website visibility on SERP?
You should always have privacy policy, terms and conditions. It's right now a law. It's mandatory. As in, think of it as wearing clothes. Look at it as wearing clothes. You should have cookie policy, privacy policy, terms and conditions. Please have that. It's very important. It's like, as I said, it's like wearing clothes. It's mandatory. You should have it. Impact does not impact is a secondary question. You should have it.
All right. One last question. How to find the correct organic keyword?
As I said, I think you go to these tools like there's Href, there's SEMrush, there's Google Keyword Planner itself. You start looking for it, and then on the two bases, as I said, volume of searches, which is like the number of searches that's been happening per month, and second, difficulty level, which is like based on competition. If there's low competition and volume is decent, target those keywords. And how do you look for it is because you need to think that what is my product itself. If it's my product for Coco, it's freight rates. For you, if it's clothes, let's say, because you have a lot of products, a range of products. I think I'm assuming it's the organic cotton dress. So let's say women's clothing is a very broad category for you. Now, under women clothing, there would be various, let's say, kurta, jeans, women pajamas. So under women, so you will have to look at women pajamas. I'll go further deeper. Under women pajamas, I'll look at what are keywords are available wherein I can rank for and work on it. So you'll have to go pretty niche. You'll have to understand what the products are, what people are searching for. Then just do some basic research on Google, and then you go to this tool to identify those keywords. But look at, as in the first way to track is low competition, decent volume, go for it, because that's uncaptured territory.
We hope we have answered everyone's question. In case you have more questions, you can always mail us at events@cogoport.com. We'll be sending across the recording of the session and the presentation across in few days once everything is set. We really hope, I'll just put down the mail ID, sir. We really hope you guys enjoyed the session. Please send us a feedback. And in case you guys want another session on something related to marketing or any other topic related to export import, please give us a suggestion. We'll definitely conduct it the next month. Thank you so much, Abhilash. Thank you so much, everyone. And we'll end the session now.
All right. Thank you.